Welcome to GearUp TV's 6 questions for successful entrepreneurs. And first up is Richard Koe, founder and CEO of WINGX, which is a fabulous data analysis and data producer for the private aviation sector in particular. Have I got that right, Richard?
Very good, Liz. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And is one of the most widely regarded experts on what's happening in our industry. And Richard, we're going to kick off with the 6 questions. The first one.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good question. Well, running a little business, and you're very kind to say that it's successful. But I think what keeps me up at night always is how to grow a little business. Little businesses really do keep you worrying all the time, and I think that's a good thing. But it's somewhat of a pressure. But I think in this period, Liz, this is an epochal moment. I mean, we go through maybe 3 or 4 of these in our lifetime. So, I think everyone is being kept up now, and really considering the the trajectory and the implications of both the public health scare and the repercussions of it. So I think extending on that a little bit, I have conflicting emotions, probably like many people. On one hand, I am somewhat depressed and bewildered by the sort of negative aspects of the psychodrama that's emerged from the virus, right? I mean, you've got the virus. Everyone recognizes a virus is, potentially very damaging. We're still learning about it, but beyond that, there's been a sort of psychotic delirium that has pushed us in all sorts of places where we don't necessarily want to go, and it all began with governments, more or less homogeneously charging into lockdowns, which have devastated economies, and we're beginning to learn really over the next few months just what what the repercussions of those decisions are. But it's not all down by any means, because what also keeps me up at night is the opportunity, because there will be opportunity here. The humans are fantastically adaptable, and we will adapt to the new circumstances, and there will be a lot of great innovation. And of course, as an entrepreneur, I want to be part of that. I want to take a role in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. For me too, I feel amid all of the pressure, that's how diamonds are formed. You put carbon under a lot of pressure and you get diamonds, and there is a lot of opportunity. And we'll speak to that shortly. But before we move on to that.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend where they sit in the industry, but I think everyone has got a pretty sort of atavistic need for survival right now, given the scale of these circumstances and the changes. Everyone is thinking, right, how do I pull through this? And in our industry, we have a lot of very small players, and very small players don't have enormous amounts of cash in the bank. And if you put an economy on freeze for 2 or 3 months, you could actually knock a lot of those businesses out of the park completely. So I think a lot of the businesses in our industry are really thinking about survival. How do we pull through the first 3 to 6 months? I think other customers of ours, are probably seeing, okay, very tough times, but chances to consolidate and expand and do things differently. I think that the kind of, and I actually heard this at Democratic Convention in the US, this mantra of build back better. And I think that a lot of people who perhaps have the luxury of cash in a bank and that scope to survive anyway, are thinking about how to rebuild their position in the industry and make it stronger than they were before.
And that leads us nicely into question 3, which is, you are the perfect person to ask this. Given that is happening, you have got larger companies with cash reserves now, and you've got smaller companies with no or very little cash reserves.
I mean, it's very early, isn't it? It's very early to be picking up trends which really point to, 12 months ahead. I think we've seen some phases, haven't we, of the industry, where the whole travel industry took that initial hit, and BizAv was really much more resilient. So that was really a sort of showcase of how versatile business aviation is. And I think that could, if you're optimistic, and I am, it could show what BizAv could become beyond what it's been traditionally, a much more sort of versatile on-demand transportation system that fills the gap when the orthodox scheduled services and other forms of travel service get closed down. So that could be a great portent for the future. I think what we've also seen, though, as the industry starts to recover, is this shift to lighter aircraft, smaller cabin, lighter aircraft. And that's actually sort of quite a change on the narrative we've seen really over the whole decade since the GFC, where, that narrative was about the industry being supported by the large cabin customers, particularly in emerging markets. And the OEMs were following that narrative with their production lines. We've now got a period, I don't know how long this will last, but we've got a period of time where it's really going to be about small and mid-size fleets serving the customer demand.
Yeah, I think that is really interesting too. And I think, that is, again, we're now going to move on to question 4. You touched on it, but what is possible? Because there's potentially a lot of innovation around that side of the market that is perhaps easier to implement than it might be with larger, more expensive aircraft requiring longer runways, etc.
A tremendous amount. I mean, you and I have been in the industry quite a while, and you probably remember Dayjet, back.
Oh yeah.
GFC, and you had a whole sort of clutch of VLJ companies that were sort of looking to fit within that model of sort of on demand, shared cabin transportation, and that opens up a hugely bigger market for private jets, and I think that's a possibility. That is genuinely a possibility now, because we've got so much. Dayjet stumbled and fell, and a lot of the VLJ businesses, almost all of them, went up in smoke. But it was arguably too early for them, and arguably the circumstances in many ways are better now. We've got critically, we've got the means of matching spot demand and spot supply, particularly through floating fleets. And I've seen a lot of operators move to floating fleets in the charter business. And we got these lighter aircraft coming through that have got, much higher productivity, lower cost base. The likes of Honda, we may well see a sort of amplification of their fleet portfolio. They've got the PC-12 and obviously the 24. So I think that we could see business aviation kind of step up to that on-demand space, particularly as the connectivity in scheduled, stays really rather frayed since all the capacity has been closed. The really fascinating thing for me, I think, is this crisis just generally is going to give I think it's really going to give a boost to technological development, and we're going to see the development of electric propulsion, right across urban airborne mobility solutions. And the question for me is, can our traditional industry be part of that revolution? I think it can be. I think that's the upside. At the same time, we're going to be cautious. There's a big downside. We've got an economic tsunami coming, and business aviation being tarred in the past with the negative optics of being a luxury business. It's got the additional, climate burden to carry as well. If we're not careful, there could be a possibility on the downside too. So, there's a real spectrum out there.
I do think, you know, and I want to hat tip to our industry associations at the moment, you know, the EBAA and the MBAA and other industry associations, BBGA, they're all very focused on building and developing the conversations they have around the environment and climate change. That is definitely at the forefront of some of the work they're doing. But to expand on what's possible.
Well, we've got to begin just by representing ourselves as an industry, and you know, as an industry, we've really struggled with that. If you look at airlines, they've got, you know, a whole alphabet of metrics that allow investors and all sorts of other stakeholders evaluate the position, the competitive position of the industry. I mean, you know, BizAv has nothing remotely like that. I mean, we have joined some other market intel providers in adding some transparency on the activity of the industry. But one of the things we really wanted to do is as soon as possible represent some other really basic stuff, like how much money does this industry make, right? No one knows that. I mean, is this industry profitable, and where is it profitable, in which segments? How many passengers does it carry? At least approximately, who are the people in the back of the plane and why are they flying? All of these really critical data points, we are not really able to broadcast except on an anecdotal basis. And the shame is that data is out there. It's siloed. It's siloed with hundreds and hundreds of operators and brokers. And if there was a way, you know, and really one of our sort of fundamental goals is to find a way that can be shared, and it can be analysed and represented, because I think that's critical.
Because that is actually my next question, what's possible for Wings? So is this where your focus is now then, Richard, as you're talking about growing a small business? Is that where you're looking at, is creating more metrics or more data?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think our aim has always been, broadly speaking, to join the dots. You know, to be fair, we're probably known as stats guys around flight activity, and that's not where I want to stay. That's not where I want to be. Wings should be the company that's able to join the dots to show suppliers across the chain what the important metrics are, whether that's, you know, how big the handling business is, how much fuel is being picked up and where, you know, how many hangars should I build, because what's the parking requirement of aircraft flying around. And we should be helping all of these different players with their own performance assessment. We work with a number of customers, so we're starting together. We work with a number of customers where we take their data, we integrate it with market data, and we enable them to monitor their performance on a competitive basis day by day. That's the direction we want to go.
And that's such a valuable service for the industry. Exactly as you say, if you're looking for investment, if you're looking for an explanation of what it is we do to the wider public, with the positive, the upside, where it really helps, I think this is essential. What would it take, and what do you need from, if anyone's watching this, what would it take for them to do to help you to create such a service?
Well, I think, you know, on one side, what we want to do is engage with suppliers who recognize the need to have an across-market understanding of the value of the different services, and recognize the need to have a third-party specialist help them with performance management. We love the chance to engage with those suppliers and prove to them that what we do in terms of data streams and dashboards and research papers offers a genuinely sort of valuable tool. And on the other side, you know, we're looking for financing. We're looking for new people. And I would, you know, recommend and welcome anyone that wants to come and talk to us about either of those topics.
Yeah, I think, well, I hope someone with the right ears and purse and a thirst for supporting what you do is watching, and this gets to people. So do share, because what Richard is doing will help all of us. So question 6, it's a personal question.
Well, it's never going to be, you know, applicable to everyone, is it? It's very subjective. For me, you know, sport is my therapy. Sport and exercise is my therapy. But I was thinking about your question, and I think if there's one little thing that I do every day, I actually try and do this every day. And it may sound a bit peculiar, but we've got a great Lido here. We've got a great sort of, you know, swimming pool by the lake, and there's a 10-meter board, right? And my little boy has dared me to go out to the 10-meter board and jump off it, and it's actually quite scary looking down from 10 meters. But I've kind of forced myself, and I said, right, well, if I do every day, if I can just jump into the lake from 10 meters, that's just going to give me the kind of adrenaline rush I need. And so that's what I do. So I run down to the leader and I jump off the 10-meter board.
Oh my goodness. And is that winter and summer, or do you
Oh my God, Liz, that's the next challenge, isn't it? That's a step up. Can I do it in the winter? I don't think so.
No, it might be a bit too cold then. Yeah. But I know I've heard Tony Robbins jumps into a cold pool every morning to start his day, so you're in good company. So okay, well, Richard has set the bar very high for things to do. I like cold water swimming, but that's taken it up a level. So, well, Richard, I'm sure I'll circle back to you at another point, but thank you for being our first 6 of the best. So look forward to hearing more about the adventures and growth and continued success of Wings. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Pleasure.